Hello everyone, this is Suresh from Azure ADB. Today our topic is how to find which columns in a table have all null records. So to explain this, I created one sample data frame here. So I have this many columns here and I'm inserting values into this particular table. So after creating this table, this how it looks, and I have total 9 rows and I have this many columns. And if you see, observe here, and we have few nulls in this. Okay, so now on top of this data frame, what I'm doing is, so we have different methods to demonstrate this one. So now we are going to explain about method one. So in method one, what I'm doing is I'm using not exist. So first what I'm doing, so I am checking on employee ID column, employee underscore ID. Suppose if I will take screenshot of this table. So here what I'm doing is, so first I selected employee underscore ID column, and on top of that, so I'm using where condition to filter, and I given not exist condition. So not exist condition I given, and inside that what I given query is select one from this particular table and where employee ID is not null. So that means I want to find out in employee ID column, so how many not nulls are there. So if you see here, we don't have any non-null values here. So we have all null records here. So what it does is, since we don't have any non-null values, so what this condition will become is false. So in exist, so inner query, so it will give you either true or false. So now our condition is false and we given not exist. So what it does is, so it will print this column name here. So that means this particular column has all null values. So suppose if you have any one single non-null value, then this become true, and since we given not exist, so it won't match here. So that means it won't print here, because if any single non-null value is there, it won't print here. So not exist condition, it is matching to this condition, false condition. So that's why it printing employee underscore ID. So here we'll see why we given select one here. So here what it does is, so true if no rows are returned, if no rows are returned, meaning all employee IDs are null. And false, when it will give false, if at least one row exists with a non-null employee ID. So as discussed, since we have all null values here, so what it doing is true. So if at least one row we have non-null value, then it will return false. So what will happen here is select one and from table where employee ID is not null. So that means we don't have any records here. So it will give you false. So false. So I'm explaining step by step. Okay. So next, what this not exist does is, see, this is our primary query. So this is our final query. So we have one outer query We have one outer query and we have one inner query. So here, what I try to explain is inner query. So that is this one. So next, what I'm trying to explain is this one, not exist. So what it does, not exist. So what it checks is true. So if this condition is true, when it will become true? If no rows are returned. If false means if at least one row exists. Okay, so next, what I'm doing, I'm applying on other column. So sales underscore from. So here syntax is same, logic is same. So only column got changed. And if you see in this particular column, first if you check inner query, select one from, where from this column is not null. And if you see here, except one record, remaining all non-nulls. Remaining all non-nulls. So that means this inner query gives true. So since it is giving true, so we won't get output here. Okay, so that means this column has non-null values. So what we need to find out here is we want column name which has all null values. Okay, so next, so same thing I explained here separately. So what it does, see earlier, if you see in a earlier column, so I given separate syntax, no, select one, and here we are not getting any output. Why? Because we have all null values. But if you see in this particular case, select one from this particular table where sales underscore from is not null. See here, except this one, these all we have non-null values. Then what it does is, for easy understanding simplicity, this all non-null values, it will replace with 1. See here, it represents with 1. So total we have 9 values. If you exclude first one, so remaining 8, it's showing 1. Okay, so this explanation. Okay, so next we'll go for method 2. See here I shown only 2 columns, but actually we have many columns here. So we have almost all columns have nulls. So in first method, what we had to do is we had to write this syntax for each and every column individually. Okay, so this is first method. In second method, what I'm trying to do is here I'm using case statement. So I'm writing select case and I'm using when condition when count of employee ID is equal to 0. Then what it has to do, it has to print employee underscore ID and end. So here I'm giving only when condition. So otherwise condition I'm not giving. So first we'll see this one, count of employee underscore ID equal to 0. So what it does is count is, if you see here, count of column, what it does is it ignores nulls. So that means, so count of this, what will happen? It will ignore nulls. See, if it ignore nulls, what will happen? Count of this employee ID is equal to 0. So that means this condition is matching. So if this condition is matching, then it has to print employee underscore ID. So that we are getting here. Next, I am applying on second column, sales underscore from. So count of sales underscore from. So what it meaning? In this column, what it does is it exclude null. If it is exclude null, remaining 8 columns are there, 8 rows are there. So that means count of this is 8. 8 equal to 0. That means this is false. So that means this condition is not satisfying. So then what will happen? It won't print anything because we are not given otherwise condition. So it printing null. So similar way for sales underscore 2. So if you see remaining all columns, no, if you exclude null, so at least some non-null values are there. So that means those are all not equal to 0. So up to here it printing null. So next, if you come to empty underscore status, here again all are nulls. So that means count of employee underscore status. So it ignores all nulls. So it will become 0. So 0 equal to 0, it is matching. So it will print employee underscore status. And if you see remaining all columns, so at least one null it has. See here, at least a few nulls are there and many non-nulls are there. Since non-nulls are there, it won't be equal to 0. So that is false condition. So that's why we are getting null here. So totally, finally, what we are getting here is based on this data frame, in this whole data frame, if you see we have total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns we have. So out of 7 columns, only 2 columns we have all records as nulls. And the same thing it giving here. So it giving in tabular format. So all column names and wherever it printing column name. So these columns have all null values. And wherever it printing null, so those at least have some non-null values. Okay, so next what I'm doing is, so here what we did is we used case statement to print the column name. So here what I'm doing, here I'm using count method. So count method, here I'm trying to print number here. So first employee underscore ID. So count of employee underscore ID. So what it does is it ignores nulls. So if it ignores nulls in employee ID column, so what it has? So we don't have anything here. So that's why it is giving 0. And if you come to sales underscore from, in this one null is there, so it will ignore this null. So remaining 8 is there, it will print 8 here. And if you come to sales underscore 2, if you see here, so we have total 1, 2, 3. 3 nulls are there. So total 9 minus 3, so 6 non-nulls are there. So similar way, product underscore ID, if you exclude these 3, so here also we'll get 6 non-nulls. And if you come to employee underscore status, since all are nulls, it will give you 0. And so on. And so on, similar way, it will calculate. So by looking here also, here how we can check is, so wherever it giving 0, so that has all null values. Okay, so this is one method using case statement, and second method is using count method, and next we'll go for method 3. In method 3, what I am doing, so this condition is same, whatever we discussed in previous method. So same explanation. So on top of that, what I'm giving, count. So count of this is equal to 0. Then employee underscore ID end. So since we already explained this one, case when employee ID is not null. So that is this one. This one. Case when employee ID is equal to 0. So So case 1 employee ID is not null. So we'll see whether it is null or not null. Okay, so this condition is different. So case when count of employee ID is equal to 0. So this scenario is different, this is different. So here what it does is, so case when employee underscore ID, this particular column is not null, is not null. If you see here, we don't have any non-nulls here. So that means this condition is false. Okay, so this condition is false. So then what it does is this count is not matching to 0. So then it will print employee underscore ID. Next, if you come to this particular column, so it will first check is not null. So here we have some non-null values in this. Okay, so what it does is if non-null values is there, then we given condition 1. So that means all non-null values it will replace with 1. After replacing with 1, then it will count. So then it will count. So how many it will come? 8. 8 records will come. So that 8 is equal to 0. So that is false. Since it is false, it will come null. So here also same thing, how it is employee ID is not null. So since it is not null, we don't have any records here. So count of this one is equal to 0. 0 equal to 0, it is matching. So it printing employee ID. So similar way, employee status also same. Employee status, since we have all nulls and count of this become 0. Why? Because we don't have any non-nulls here. So we have 0 non-nulls. So 0 equal to 0, it will satisfy the condition. So it will print employee underscore status. So remaining all, it will print null because counts of this is not equal to 0 because we have some non-nulls. Okay, so this is other method. And here I'm trying to explain separately to understand this one clearly. Case when this one. So up to here I'm explaining here. So how it works. So select case when employee ID is not null. Then 1. So see here, since we don't have any non-nulls here, what it doing is it printing all nulls here. And similar way, if you take count on this, so we saw this one up to here, it printing all nulls here. And if you take count of this one, it will become 0 since we have all nulls. So next what trying to do is, so I'm trying to check in other column, sales underscore from. So in this column, what is the condition is case when this column is not null, So that means if you see here, so first one is null. So we are getting as it is here null and remaining all we are getting 1. Why? Because so remaining all non-null values. So all non-null values it printing as 1. So next what I'm doing on top of that I'm using count. So now if you do count of this whole thing, what will happen? Count, it will ignore nulls here. And what else is there? Remaining 8 is there. So that 8 will get here. So same condition here in previous column employee underscore ID. Since we have all nulls here, no, so count of this column. So that means count of this result. So that means this one. So since we have all nulls and count method, it ignores nulls. So it will give 0 here. Count as 0. So we saw up to here sales underscore from. So same thing it applies for other columns also. If you take sales underscore 2, what it does is, so wherever null value is there, it will convert as ones. It will convert as ones, and remaining it will be same. Nulls will be there. And on top of that, if you do count, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 will get, so count will get as 6. So similar way you can count for other columns also. So our main syntax is this one. So our main syntax is this one. So I try to explain separately. So how this works, and on top of that, how it will works. Okay, so next we'll go for other method. So in this method, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to check whether the entire column contains only nulls. If yes, it returns the string employee underscore ID. So count case when is not null, then 1. See here, so this is same only. Again, same condition. So counts how many non-null values are in employee underscore ID column. So the query checks whether this count is equal to 0. That means no non-null values exist in the employee underscore ID column. So what is method 4 is, so select this employee underscore ID column from this particular table, and in having condition, what I'm giving is I'm giving this count method. So this is again same. In previous method we saw no same thing, count. So this explanation is same. And I'm giving union null. So if you see here in this method, I given multiple case statements here. So I given multiple case statements here. So we are getting result here. We are getting result like this in this tabular format. So similar way, so here what I'm doing, I'm using union null. So union null, and again I'm writing same query. So only change is column name. So like this for each and every column, I given query, select query here, and in between I written union null. So what will happen? It will give you in tabular format. It will give in tabular format, but here how it is giving is whichever the column is satisfies. So only those columns it is giving. So finally we have only these two columns we have. All columns has null values. So in this result, it giving only those column nums only. So it not printing like whether each and every column, how many nulls are there, how many non-nulls are there. So it giving simply result, how many columns has all null values. So totally we discussed total 4 different methods on how to find all null values in each and every column. So this is the example. So these are the 4 methods we can use to find all null values in each and every column. So that's all about this video. If you really like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you.